my eye. Through the mist, my surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, I realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. This is episode 76. Well, it's been quite a day. My guest who was supposed to join me today couldn't make it last minute. So I thought, I'll just do another presentation of some of my content that I have for you folks. And I want to spend some time today talking about the Quantum Health Transformation Program. I know I've got it right here up on my background. And it's a very important set of information that can help you with your life, help you with your lifestyle, help you with your health. I'm not a doctor, so please do not take anything I'm about to say as being medical advice. It's not. It's just part of my journey, and I'm sharing it with you in the hopes that it will benefit you as much as it has benefited me. So let's start off with what are some of the benefits. Okay, so most of you, well, I shouldn't say most, some of you know that I was a very heavy woman throughout my life. Most of my adult life, I weighed over 320 pounds. I was extremely sick all the time. I had no energy. I had so much trouble with anxiety and depression. I tried so many diets, and let me just screen share with you and show you some of the results. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these pictures up close. So here is myself after I had my first child. I was significantly overweight, and I did everything I could to lose weight. Let me just go back and show you some more images. If I can get this to work properly. Okay. Here I am after my second child was born. And as you can see, I just had so much extra weight that it caused me to even hampered my ability to be a proper parent, because I didn't have the physical ability to do the things that were necessary. Even holding my children, lifting them up was quite painful for me. Of course, I did it anyway. But there were all kinds of aspects of my life that I was not able to participate in because of my weight, but also the way my weight affected my body. Here's another image of me a little bit later on in life. You can see that I'm drinking a beer and waiting to fold the laundry. I was pretty much a typical housewife. There was nothing special about me in any way. I did my best to look after my family and my own health, but I was following mainstream ideas and mainstream methods. Here's another one of me a little bit later. It's Christmas time. I'm having my peanut butter toast, which was pretty typical for me for my breakfast. I had no idea about the food sensitivities I had. I had no idea that I was eating completely wrong way for my body. And it's also interesting to note that during these times, I tried everything. So I went to Weight Watchers, I went to TOPS. TOPS in Canada stands for Take Off Pounds Sensibly. And it was basically a diet support group. I tried that. I tried everything, even starving myself, over exercising. I tried everything. Now, I was able to lose weight a couple of times during my life, a significant amount, but sooner or later, I had to eat something. And so as soon as I started eating what I thought was real food, the weight just piled back on and actually even added extra. So I tried TOPS, I tried Weight Watchers, I tried every diet that was out there, whatever was trending, the vegetable soup diets. I tried them all and I had no lasting success and I did not have any better health. And then I had my spiritual awakening. This is a picture of me from 2009. What happened to me is this is actually an actual picture of my aura and myself in the center. What happened to me was something shifted inside myself and I became acutely aware of how my food and my lifestyle was having a detrimental effect on me. I was acutely aware. So suddenly I was aware of the chemicals that were in my shampoo and my body conditioner and the different soaps and personal care products that I was using. I became so aware. I became super allergic to everything that wasn't good for me. And of course, then I lost a lot of weight. And it just happened naturally because I could no longer eat the way I used to eat. I could no longer use cleaning supplies that I used to use. I couldn't eat the foods I used to eat, as I mentioned earlier. I was actually went through a very horrible time. My spiritual awakening was what I would call very rough and very rocky, but it was what I needed to wake up and to open my body up and recognize it as a temple that holds spiritual energy. And from there, I was able to have the most amazing experiences, angelic experiences, extraterrestrial experiences, all kinds of spiritual, very high level spiritual experiences. And that eventually led me to work with my guides to produce the Quantum Health Transformation Program. And so I'm going to just show you a few slides from that program. So that's a little bit about what I went through that led up to creating the Quantum Health Transformation Program. So once I had gotten through a certain amount of detoxification, I started channeling all this information. And there was an urgency about it. And I knew I had to get it written down. I had to get it written down properly and in the correct order. And as strange as the order may seem today, that is exactly how I was given it. So I wasn't given details the way you'll see in this presentation. What I was given was very high level abstract concepts that I then had to what we call downstep or bring down into language and imagery and different components of the message so that people could benefit from it. And there was quite a few I'm going to say rules for lack of a better term. Like, for instance, I was cautioned not to try to turn this into some kind of a religious cult. Or any kind of religious affiliation. I was told that it had to be offered for free to anyone who has access to the internet and can understand basic English, which is a large portion of the population of Earth. I also had to downstep the information in such a way that the terms were universal and that anybody from any belief system would be able to make use of it. So, for instance, it needed to be universal as far as spiritual concepts. It couldn't be male or female dominated. It had to not be in any kind of culture, like, for instance, American or Canadian culture dominated. It had to be very universal so that nobody was left out of the teachings and out of the process. So this actually started happening to me about 2013, but it took me a couple of years really to unpack it. Now, the interesting thing about the downloads, the spiritual downloads that I receive, is they enter. It feels like I'm getting a packet that's dropped directly into my brain, but it takes time for that packet to kind of unfold, the information to unfold, and for me to get a sense of it and what's going on with it. Sometimes I would have what I would call visual overlays, where my mind's eye or my imagination, which we think of as being in our brain, this would form images that would overlay my physical sight so that I could see an overlay of the teaching on top of what I was seeing and experiencing in my everyday life. And that was extremely interesting. Now, the other thing that happened kind of in between my spiritual awakening and getting this download is I ended up in some fairly difficult circumstances. I ended up having a very badly botched surgery, and I ended up spending 6 weeks in hospital. I couldn't have anything by mouth, no water, no food, nothing. There's a whole horror story here that I'm just going to spare you. But what happened was, while I was in the hospital, I couldn't go out and be around the things that gave me spiritual support. I couldn't go into the woods. I couldn't be with people who comforted me. I couldn't do any of those things. The rules in the hospital was, unless someone was a direct relation to me, like a parent or a spouse, no one could even come visit me. And it was like, I find institutions, any kind of institution, basically a spiritual wasteland. And so it was at that point that I realized I had to open up a channel directly within myself where I could have contact with my spiritual guides. And that really led impetus and power to my spiritual experiences. So today, there are quite a few different levels to this program. I'll describe them very briefly when I bring up the PDF. But basically, the first step I want to teach you today is about the Nubby Ball concept. And it's a conceptual tool that was given to me by spiritual beings. You could call them angels, ET. Sometimes it's a combination. It's very, very interesting how it works. But this conceptual tool helped me to understand the world that I was living in, the way I was thinking, and it really helped me to start on my detoxification program from all the programming that was I was indoctrinated with since birth, even before birth. So I think this tool is going to be very, very helpful for you as well. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to give you a little introduction by what I mean by a Nubby ball, and I'll explain further in the lesson. So a nubby ball could be considered a sphere. And if you want to think of it as being covered in infinite nubs or infinite points of reference, and you could say that the very, very, very top nub might be like north, and the very, very south nub could be like south. And we're taught in this society that really we're only given two choices, this or that. Things are north or they're south. Things are up or they're down. Things are good or they're evil. People are male or they're female. There's many, many ways that we've been given this programming to a dichotomous system, when in reality, because this ball is covered in infinite nubs, which is the infinite, it represents the infinite possibilities that we have for what we see, what we believe, what we experience. The likelihood of absolute good and absolute evil, or absolute male or absolute female, or absolute good and absolute evil, those likelihoods are very slim to nil. When the reality of it is the portion around the equator, or between what we could call the two tropics, that band around the center, is most likely where the majority of reality falls. And so by using this conceptual tool, we can break apart that dichotomy way of thinking and programming and see the infinite possibilities that are available to you, to me, to everybody, to help us to think differently. So I'm going to go to the screen share. So this is taken from a PDF that's available on my website. So on my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, you will click the free resources tab, and then scroll down to where it has quantum health transformation, and click on that. And it will take you to mostly videos. It's over 20 videos for the whole program. But I also, what are available are these PDFs. So if you want the PDFs, you can also get them. So to start things off, this is my sort of an outline of the 9 steps. And we start at the bottom, step 9. Each step is loosely affiliated with a chakra point. So step 9, which I call black, would be the chakra that's below your feet. And then you're probably more familiar with the red chakra or the sacral, then the root or base chakra being red, the root chakra, the sacral chakra being orange, the solar plexus yellow, the heart chakra green, the throat chakra blue, the third eye or brow chakra as indigo, and then the top of the head is violet. And then we have another one above our heads that is white, and I call that state of bliss and spiritual exercises. So that's the basic logical progression that this course goes through. So you start off, as you'll notice when you go to my website, with step 9, and that's what we're going to look at today, which is introduction to the nubby ball and light shadow integration. This is so important for you to get more out of life. I thought it was a very good foundation. Then we go to step 8, and we're going to talk about grounding and the birth of new core belief systems. Then we're going to go up to step 7, and we're going to talk about developing those core belief systems. And I also cover the issue of transgender to explain, what does that actually mean? How does that come about? What are some of the influences? And I'm not talking about social and political here. I'm talking actually from a very biological level, what's going on. So those are the first 3 parts of this program, and they are meant to help you to open up your mind, to see things differently, give you some tools so that you can navigate through this crazy making world as we see it today. And then we move into detoxification. So step 6, 5, and 4 are all about detoxifying. So step 6 is all about detoxifying externally, how to detoxify internally, how to recognize which common products we're buying from the supermarket are actually poisoning us and often cause the kind of obesity that I experienced in my life, and many others are too, not realizing that it has nothing to do with the way they eat. Then step 6 is that's step 6. Step 5 is all about food and how food can be a source of universal love energy. And what is real food? And how can we use it as medicine? And is there only one correct way to eat? Or are there many different ways to eat depending on our ancestry, where we live, all kinds of things like that? And then step 4 is understanding the power of heuristics and speaking your truth. But it's also about detoxifying from the construct, from the programming. After you've done all of that, each one sets a foundation for the one that's above it. And then the last 3 lessons, which are 3, 2, and 1, that's all about spiritual evolution, helping you to get more out of life of what you really want, how to create a strong spiritual community for yourself, how to practice different exercises that really, really help to solidify the kind of spiritual life that we all want to have. And so that's a bit of an overview of the Quantum Health Transformation Program. I want you to note that this primer is meant to accompany the corresponding primer and live recorded videos. So for each step, there will be at least 2 videos. One is the primer, and it's a slideshow that lets you go through. It's narrated as well, but it lets you go through the basic information and get sort of all the facts. And then there's a live video, sometimes more than one, where you'll see me illustrate how I use the step in my own life. And so, as mentioned earlier, they're presented in descending number order. So you start with step 9 and you work your way up and do step 1 last. And of course, you can find it by clicking on the free resources tab. Now, this is from the PDF, and the advantage of the PDF is it has all the links. And I am charging $3.99 Canadian for each PDF, just to help me cover some of my expenses that it cost me to have a website, pay for my Zoom, all kinds of expenses. And it's affordable so that pretty much everybody, hopefully, can afford to buy the PDF. But you don't need the PDF. You can just go and watch the videos. So I even have on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist called Series 2.0 Quantum Health Transformation. That's the most up to date, and it will have over 20 videos of everything you may want to know about, so that you can benefit yourself from this free online program. I want you to know that this information has not been taken from any place, no school, no person, no expert. It came, what I believe, from the Living Library, which is also known as the Akashic Records. And it's also sort of mixed in with any training that I have. I do have a bachelor degree of social work. Instead of taking child apprehension and things like that, I took a generalist program. So a lot of sociology, a lot of gender studies, a lot of psychology, addictions, and treatment for addictions, and also family counseling. So that's where I get my recognized educational background from, and I draw on what I learned there as well as the information I get directly from the Living Library, also known as the Akashic Records. And I clearly state in my program that I'm not an expert, I'm not a mathematician, and I'm not a scientist. I'm just a seeker of knowledge and wisdom. And I've been very, very blessed to get the spiritual help that I've gotten in order to put this together. And so the other thing I want to say is this system works really well for me, but I want you, when you're going through the information, to synthesize it and take only what suits you and don't worry about the rest. Because at the very least, I'm hoping that this will stimulate you to seek your own information and seek your own inner wisdom and your own guidance. And then the other thing I want to say is I would appreciate it if you recognized me when you share this information with other people, but it's not copyrighted. So whether it's the original or the 2.0 series, you can use it all you want under the fair use clause. So you can share it with people, you can include it in whatever kind of program or teaching that you're doing. It's pretty well open source, but I do ask you to give credit to myself, my company, my parent company, which is called Vancouver Island Alternative Lifestyle Services. Of course, now I live in Alberta, but the acronym VIAL still suits it, and that is still the name of my legally registered company. And then, of course, give credit that you got this information from the Quantum Health Transformation Program. That would be great. And this is just a little disclaimer. All my information has disclaimers saying that nothing I am teaching is been approved by the FDA or the Canadian Food Inspection Agency or anything like that. And it's not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. And it recommends that you do your own independent research before you purchase anything from me. Now, this program is actually quite free, except for the PDFs. And then I do have some products and some amazing vital services also available from my shop. But before you purchase anything, do your own research. I highly recommend that. So basically, I'll go over this just very briefly. How the Nubby ball came to me was I was having a lot of problems navigating my way through the social reality. I didn't understand people. I didn't know why they did the things they did. And I couldn't seem to find, I had a great deal of difficulty creating and maintaining a solid community for myself. And so one day, I was talking to my guides and my higher self, my ET friends, whoever, all of the whole group, which is usually how I address things very generally. I was given this image of a nubby ball. And I was asked to take what my position was, plot it on the nubby ball, and then think about some alternative points on the nubby ball that might also describe what was happening, but I hadn't really considered that before. And so what happened with the nubby ball, as I mentioned, it's covered all over with infinite nubs. And it was to show me that there is infinite number of points of view for any social situation, and that really there's no point in looking for truth from our social experiences. And the reason I'm saying that is because we don't know what other people are thinking. We don't know what their motives are. And from any single vantage point, we can only see our own perspective. And that might be very different than how many other people would see it. So to flesh issues out further, I was asked to plot on the same sphere several other possible positions as I might imagine them to be for my issue. And now it became even clearer to me that I had no way of correctly identifying or completely understanding the motives and behaviors of another person. What I had actually been seeing, and this is true for all of us, is we're seeing a projection of things as they make sense to us. But the person next to us or in another neighborhood or another country might see things really quite differently. And so it's really impossible for us to know what people are thinking and what they're experiencing. And this led me to several conclusions. First of all, there's no point in assigning attention to others. I should say intention to others, because we don't know what they're experiencing or what their true motives might be. And there's no point in doing that because we really don't know. We can guess, we can try to see each other's issues as being like infinite nubs on a sphere, but we can't actually figure out what's going on for them. And so we can't say, oh, that person's a biatch, she said this, she did that, or that guy, he's right out of his mind and is stupid for the way he thinks, or whatever the human condition often stirs up as far as thoughts go within us. And it really helped me to understand that it's actually none of my business what other people are feeling, experiencing, doing, saying, what their intentions are, because my perceptions are mine alone to care for and adjust as I see fit. And I really had to get that so that I could step out of a victim mentality and see things more clearly for the way they really are. And so only by considering an issue as infinite points or nubs on a ball could I get the glimpse of the truer whole. And as I practiced many issues and situations, I realized that I could use this tool to gain greater understanding of life and on many different levels. Only by crudely considering the entirety as displayed by this tool could I approach truth, and especially my own truth. So as I continued to use the nubby ball, this led me to understand that everything is fractal in nature, and this tool allows us to see our own fractal flow. I didn't realize it at the time, but the nubby ball tool represents a tesseract. So if you're not familiar with that term, you could do some research, but a tesseract is basically infinity cycled through what we perceive as infinite time and space. All levels of reality, from the plank to the universal expanse, follow the same dynamic flow. All beliefs, societies, and systems can be assessed with this model of analysis. And as it is above, so it is below. And I would also add to that, as it is without, so it is within. Almost everything we experience comes from within and our perceptual arena. As mentioned before, good, bad, light, dark, gender, any binary concept considers only 2 points among infinite positions within the realm of possibility. And I think that truth and balance are at the center, which none of us actually has access to. And the more points we consider, the more we come to understand reality, social as well as other aspects in life. And the best we can do, being imperfect beings, is to plot the opposites of an issue or a situation at the poles, and then consider as many additional points as we can on our nubby ball. And this gives a sense of the whole and leads to fourth and fifth dimensional thinking. So what that means is, even if we're not getting it right, if we plot where we think we would be on this nubby ball, between the two extremes of the two poles, and we could plot where we think other people are or other things are, it gives us a more flushed out sense of the whole. But again, it's not exactly giving us truth, because truth would be if we were at the center of the nubby ball and we were able to see all the external points at once. And we just don't have that kind of capability at this time of our incarnation. So I want to get a little bit into the quantum physics, or the math to do with a nubby ball. You'll see on the left-hand side, there's a dot, and this represents a point of awareness or being, or 0 dimensions. And then there are 2 dots with a line between, and this represents movement between 2 points, 1 dimension, which is length. And then the box, the square, I should say, this represents movement between 4 points, or 2 dimensions. It gives you height and it gives you width. Now, when we're looking at our shadow, we're seeing a 2-dimensional representation of ourselves. I'm talking about our real physical shadow we see when we're standing outside and the sun is shining down. And you can see that the square is actually a component of the box, and this represents movement between 8 points, 3 dimensions of height, width, and depth. And so just as our shadow is emergent, or the square is emergent from the box or the cube, we are emergent, our shadow is emergent from us. But that cube is emergent from something else. And this is where the nubby ball is really handy as a conceptual tool, because it includes an infinite number of three-dimensional shapes, which creates the fourth, fifth, sixth dimensions and beyond. And for more information, Google sacred geometry. Now, our three-dimensional selves are emergent from the fourth, fifth, and other dimensions, because we are emergent, and everything we think is real is actually emergent from a greater reality that we may or may not be able to detect with our general physical senses. So here's another, a 4 cube is a tesseract. So here's an image with the red dots showing another example of a nubby ball. The nubby ball is just a really simplified conceptual tool that represents this. But you can see these other two images are showing cycles. So we go through little cycles and we go through big cycles. We may go through cycles of hormones, which are often, connected to the moon phases. We have cycles of seasons. We have cycles of years. And we have things like the Kali Yuga and other huge cycles that we're also traveling through. And then the image on the bottom there just shows a very complex image of reality as we're going through so many cycles and we're constantly changing. And this is a sort of a diagram of the greater reality. So at the center of the nubby ball is the source of all concepts, ideas, situations, etc. The source is truth and balance, a unified whole. So we're not privy to that, being human beings that have been heavily programmed, but the nubby ball tool will help you to break through or shatter some of those illusions. Think of it also this way. I'm a nubby ball. I am an energetic torus field, another term you may want to look up. But I am also but a nub on a nubby ball, which is a larger energetic torus field. Every nub is a nubby ball, yet all nubs connect to each other, forming ever more nubs on nubby balls. So an example of that is I'm a nubby ball, I'm an energetic torus, and I'm here on the earth. So I have my own toroidal field that goes with my body that's produced by the heart. But the earth also has a toroidal field, and I'm a part of that. So that's an even greater toroidal field that I'm connected with. And all nubs on all nubby balls, whether you go into the macro or the micro, they're all connected. So, and consciousness is another example of nubs on a nubby ball. It's one thing, but we've been given in our three-dimensional reality the illusion of time and space and separateness, so that we can do the spiritual work and the spiritual work and the spiritual evolution that we're here to do. And so the entire energetic phenomenon is conscious. And as it is above, so it is below. As it is without, so it is within. And a nubby ball is also the flower of life. It is dynamic, ever-changing, and evolving under influence. So you're probably familiar with the flower of life symbol. Well, the flower of life symbol is actually a sphere. It's not a flat, round shape. And more about that later on. So here are some possible uses for the nubby ball as a practical tool. It allows us to see more of an issue, situation, or way of being with a more balanced sense of the whole. It takes us away from just considering our perspective and considering other perspectives, which may be possibilities. The nubby ball plumps out the 3D, revealing the dynamic, interconnected nature of all things. And use of the nubby ball assists us with overcoming our binary programming and our black, white, positive, negative, up, down, good, evil worldview, so we can see things as they really are, truly complex and dynamic. So they're not just complex, they're dynamic, which means they're moving and changing, constantly evolving. The Nubby Ball tool helps us to weed out the BS and allow for a greater degree of self-analysis and character building. So a prime example for us here in 2022 is the Nubby Ball actually can help us to weed out what we're being told by mainstream media, identifying what's real, what's not, what's complete BS. And it really helps us to do a greater degree of self-analysis and character building. This tool assists us to understand and upload complex data into our thinking schema. So before, we were just programmed in our minds to think of the dichotomous extremes of black, white, up or down. Now we can see things as being able to handle and understand complex data, so that we're just doing a way higher level, more efficient level of observing, I guess, for lack of a better word. The Nubby Ball helps us to understand social issues which may have caused discomfort or awkwardness in the past. A lot of people have social anxiety, but the Nubby Ball really helps us to understand that only what we're experiencing within ourselves is the parts that we need to pay attention to. And it doesn't matter what other people are thinking or what their motives might be. All of that is just red herring. It's all that is. The Nubby Ball assists us to reconcile cognitive dissonance. So when we're given only two options on everything, we often experience cognitive dissonance because we're taught this, we believe this, we see it this way. But then along comes another circumstances where things are completely different. And what happens is we shut down, we're more apt to go into this mass hypnosis, psychosis. But when we've got a Nubby Ball, we don't need to do that because we can reconcile, yes, this is true over here and this is true over there. And so we don't have to worry about what's real, what's not real, because it's all real and not real depending on how we want to slice it and dice it. It allows us to more fully integrate that which we choose to believe, and the Nubby Ball tool offers us a way to look at issues more analytically and less emotionally. So instead of freaking out because you think this person's done that or this person's done something else, we can look at it analytically through the Nubby Ball tool and not worry about emotions, because often we're creating emotions from illusions and we don't have to do that anymore. So the Nubby Ball expands our awareness, and knowledge is power, and self-knowledge is true personal power. So we never have to worry about feeling powerless ever again when we use this tool. The Nubby Ball tool strongly illustrates why the standardizing bureaucracy of the economic, political, social construct is so limiting. So what happens is, if we're have to fill out a questionnaire, we're given yes or no answers, or we're given multiple choice of 2 or 3 options, but that doesn't anywhere near cover what's actually going on or what we could actually be choosing from. And so it releases us, from those limiting beliefs. It also helps us to dissolve conflict, because you no longer have any desire to think this person's wrong and you're right, or that you're wrong and that other person is right, because none of that is true. It's all happening, it's all connected, and we can see our way through it, without having to go to conflict. There's no need. We can just respect other people for where they're at and how they see things. And it also sharpens our critical thinking skills. So I want to stress that you don't have to believe anything I'm saying. You don't have to believe in the Nubby Ball tool. You don't have to understand quantum physics or anything like that. Just pretend it works and give it a try. And you'll find that the more you practice with it, the easier it becomes. And soon it becomes an automatic system for learning, which is what I like to use it for. So how to use your nubby ball. First of all, suspend your opinions for 5 minutes and pretend the nubby ball tool works as I've described. Promise yourself that you will return to your skepticism after trying to use it for just 5 minutes. Don't put unrealistic expectations on yourself if this is a brand new concept. It takes time to kind of sink in. So next, visualize a nubby ball clearly in your mind, or you could draw a picture of a sphere and put a bunch of dots on it on paper, whatever it takes. Here's an image that I have here of a nubby ball. And then you can take any social issue and divide it into two extremes and polar opposite viewpoints and plot these two positions on the poles of your nubby ball. So I've got a north and a south node there. So you might want to take any issue, whatever is real for you, and plot the two dichotomies as we're used to thinking or seeing things. Could be black and white, it could be male and female, it could be right or wrong, it could be good or evil. Just plot 2 points on your nubby ball and just let that sink in. Now, plot where your honest position might be. No one else is going to see this. Nobody else knows. So what you want to do is you want to, besides the poles, you want to plot where you think your position honestly might be. So say, for instance, you want to know if you're good or bad, and maybe you've got on the north good and on the south bad. Now you're going to plot where you think you fall on that nubby ball. So that might be the X1 axis or the X2 axis, but you're going to take your point and then you're going to point the exact opposite point on the other side of the nubby ball. I got to tell you, these nubby balls are everywhere. They're in dollar stores and all over the place. If you see one, pick one up. It really makes a big difference to use it as your analytical tool. But anyway, once you've done that, you have now got a quantum view of the bigger picture as suggested by the original issue. So now you're seeing the two major points at the north and the south. You're plotting where exactly you would be if you want to be honest on where you think you would fall, and then plot the opposite. Just pretend there's a line intersecting your nubby ball right out, coming right out the other side. And then there's that point too. Now you're starting to see things in a more fleshed out view. You're starting to see things a little bit more complex. You're doing way better than when you were only seeing things from north and south. So for instance, if I want to know if I'm a good or a bad person, it's impossible to be good all the time. It's impossible to be bad all the time. More than likely, where we would see ourselves is somewhere around the equator. And then we could see that other people might have opposite positions, but again, it's unlikely that they're going to be at the north node or the south node. So now you're in a position to make some educated guesses and draw some holistic conclusions. You can understand matters more fully and better execute your strategic planning. And when you practice and lengthen the time you spend considering concepts, people, places, and things this way, you can draw quantum conclusions almost instantly. Soon it becomes an automatic system of analysis. And I think actually we're already doing this on a subconscious level. And I think this is what gives us our intuition and our hunches. So hold on, because this is actually only the very beginning. Now you're ready to integrate your light body with your shadow body. We all have a light and shadow. So if you took your nubby ball and you put a flashlight on one side, it would be illuminated, and the shadow side would be the other half of the nubby ball. So if you shine a light on one side of a nubby ball, you find a light side and a shadow side. Likewise, no matter how much we deny this duality within ourselves and attempt to walk in the light, our shadow side always remains. And we share a collective consciousness of light and shadow, as well as our personal dichotomy. Here's a couple books that I recommend. The first one is by Ernest Becker, and it's called The Denial of Death, and it talks about our collective shadow consciousness. And then the other book is called Meeting the Shadow, The Hidden Power of the Dark Side of Human Nature. And this really helps us to get a handle on how other people are addressing the issue of their shadow and finding ways to, I guess, extract wisdom from understanding that the shadow is a real thing. We carry it with us, and there are many, many ways of dealing with it. So in the beginning, most of us shy away from this kind of knowledge, usually out of fear. Oh my God, what if I find out I'm a terrible person? Well, if we don't do this kind of information, we can look forward to denial. The shadow remains and is activated fairly regularly without our conscious knowledge or consent, and we don't get the results we wish for in life. So in other words, what happens is we deny that we have a dark side, that we have evil and goodness within. And as long as we're not paying attention to it and we're ignoring it or we're covering it up with addictions, we're not going to get the results that we were looking for in life. If we don't do this type of personal work, we're often guilty of projection. So we blame others for their faults, and our relationships fail to develop fully and remain superficial. We get caught up in victim role playing, and our relationships tend to fail. So what's projection? Projection is something we don't like about someone else is generally part of our shadow that we're refusing to see. So instead of seeing it ourselves, punishing ourselves, or doing the work to integrate that so that we're a more balanced human being, we're busy projecting our shit onto other people. And this isn't fair. This isn't loving. This is not spiritual. And then we always feel superior because, oh, we're better than that person over there. Oh, thank you, God, for not making me like that sinner over there. When that sinner over there doesn't really exist, that's a mind game that we play because we think we're protecting ourselves. But what we're really protecting is just our ego. And then the last thing that happens if we don't do this kind of personal work is failure to evolve. We do not get to know ourselves, which impedes self-reflection and personal growth. So when we do this kind of work, other names for it are the dark night of the soul, the hero's journey. Look both of those up if you want more information. But if we boldly go where few have gone before and we choose to do an honest appraisal of our whole selves, we can look forward to less denial and less subconscious sabotage. Life becomes richer and more rewarding. And without the need for projection, we no longer bully, scapegoat, or stereotype others because we can accept folks as they really are. We will find little reason for dramatic entanglement, so relationships become deeper and much more fulfilling. And finally, when we choose to do an honest appraisal of our whole selves, we take responsibility for our actions. We are now able to engage in meaningful self-reflection and confidently make our own necessary adjustments for personal growth and evolution. We don't need somebody else telling us, oh, you need to change this, you need to change that. It becomes really clear as we become or develop an observer within who is aware of everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this leads to our personal growth and evolution. So now we can truly begin to thrive and find the happiness and the contentment that we deserve. So I'm going to just give you a few recommendations. Use the Nubby Ball tool to plot your positive attributes and consider the opposite attributes you may be avoiding or hiding. So you might think, oh, I'm a really generous person. That's only true when we are. What about when we're not, right? And so this is just fuel for thought. There is no right and wrong answer. But whatever we think we are, we think we're loyal, we think we're loving, we think we're patient, whatever we think we are, whatever our glowing qualities are, we need to look at the opposite. And then we need to remember times where we're not so benevolent so that we can just do this honest appraisal. And once you see your shadow emerging, notice how you feel. I got to tell you, when I first started to see my shadow emerging, I was shocked. I was disgusted. I was like, oh my God, this is not who I thought I was. But without judgment or condemnation, thank your shadow self for the information it gives you through thoughts and feelings. So be really aware of how you're feeling when you're doing this kind of work. And you'll be surprised. It's pretty yucky. That's why it's called the dark night of the soul. And that's why it's often described as the hero's journey. It's not something that's fun, but it's something that needs to be done for us to evolve and grow and be more positive or beneficial people. And you want to look for the wisdom and the warnings within the nonsense. So when you're used to not listening to your shadow, it can come up with some or present in your mind's eye or in your awareness some really startling stuff. And like I was telling you how it was for me, but once we start to listen and not judge it, it seems to ramp it down so that things are not so disturbing. And you could just look at it as being nonsense. I got to tell you, there are parts of my shadow self I don't like one bit, not one bit. But if I don't pay attention to it, I'm only getting half the message. So we don't have to like this part of us. We're only looking for the essence of the meaning because our shadow's trying to tell us something. It's not just about our failings and what we're doing wrong. It's trying to tell us something about how we are experiencing reality. And we need that information. So with practice, these shadow messages become less disturbing. Remember that you're listening now. And we want to learn to walk with and learn from our internal shadow partner, light and dark together like siblings. So it's not about eliminating the shadow. It's about integrating the wisdom and knowledge from the shadow, the wisdom and knowledge from our light body or our light selves, and kind of balancing it out or taking a middle road, much like siblings when they finally learn to get along and accept each other for who they are. And so we can now learn from the important messages from both sides, which facilitate integration. And in truth, not one of us is good or evil. We are products of our spirit, our genetics, our environment, our social upbringing. Light-dark integration more than doubles what we know. And so I'm going to say it again. Personal awareness is personal power. So again, I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called Series 2.0 Quantum Health Transformation. I also, under the free resources tab, let's see if I have time to show that to you. I think I do. So I'm just going to stop the screen share for now. And I'm going to take you to my website and show you where you can find this amazing information and where you can hopefully share it, use it, whatever it takes to help your life be better. Okay, so this is my website, and you can see I've got my home page. I've got a little bit about all of what I offer, and I've got a recent podcast that I was guest on if you want to watch that. This is a fully interactive website. So you can just click, oops, let me dismiss this. You can just click right on any of the images and it'll take you right to where you want to go. So say for vital services, you could click here, or you could go vital services there, or you can go up to my shop where I have my Zendoms, orgone generators, comfort crystals, vital services, and my PDF downloads. If you go to the free resources tab, you can see I've got a lot about orgone generators. I've got the Quantum Health Transformation free online course. You can just click on that. And this takes you to the basic program. So it starts with a welcome and how it's laid out. Then there'll be an introduction. And then there's steps 9, 8, all the way down to 1, and then I have a conclusion here. So when you click on, say, step 9, which is most of the material that we just covered, you will now find that there's an image, and then it gives you some basic information. You can click here if you want the PDF copy to download. I've got a short video here, Quantum Health Transformation 2.0, step 9. And then I've got a video that I made earlier, all about how to use the Nubby ball. I've got another one here, which is a live workshop I did teaching other people. And then this is an even older video, but they're all totally relevant and totally important. Now, I just want to take you to see step 6, because most of these have 2 or 3 or 4 videos, but step 6, which is all about detoxification, it's been split up into 3 groups. So you'll start with part 1, which will teach you all about external detoxification, but not just warn you about some of the products that we may be using that are very, very toxic and are, really causing us some health issues and possibly obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure and all those other horrible things. But it also teaches you how to make your own products for pennies. So instead of spending $6 or $8 or even $4 at the store buying cleaning products, you could be making them for pennies, literally pennies. And so I also will teach you how to do that in part 1. So that's all about external detoxification. And then we get into, and then we get into part 2, and that's internal detoxification. So that's all about the toxic elements that we might be consuming, thinking that they're food when really they're not. And it's putting our health at risk. And there's a couple videos there. And then there is part 3, which is about emotional detoxification. So this teaches you how to use all of your emotions so that they benefit you in your life. I also included a little video from YouTube, somebody else's video here, which is all about makeup, the dangers of wearing cosmetics and what that can do. So all of it is right here. This is a one-stop shop for everything. And I also have all my YouTube appearances on other shows. I've got my serial podcast, The Quantum Guide Show, Forbidden Transformation with Karen Chris, which is no longer happening, but I've got all the episodes there for you. And then another show I did, which was a radio show called Convergence with Karen Holton. All the episodes are there. And I have a new series coming out that's called Aliens and Astrology that I will be co-hosting with Dave Petrella, and that will also be found on here. Then I have health and vitality podcasts, social spiritual podcasts, Fringe View podcast. Fringe View is basically anything that's outside of the mainstream, which you may want to consider paranormal. I've got published articles. I had 12 of my articles published in Sybil magazine, and those are there. I've got audio podcasts, more video podcasts, a blog. Whoops, what was at the very bottom? And links and resources, which are people that I have had history with, and I believe in them, and I appreciate what they do, and probably I've used their services. And so, for instance, East of Astrology, Dave Petrella. That's my co-host for my new show. There's Leanne Clark. She does Akashic Records, accessing your Akashic Records. She's amazing. There's Chris Matthew for Forbidden Knowledge News, which is where you can go for all kinds of outside of the box information. I have a friend named Tom who has a wonderful website, which is perfect for people who are newly awakened and they want to find out information from all kinds of topics. I've got Alfred Lambermont Weber. He's also an exo-political ambassador, and He's written some amazing books. And then, of course, there's Refined Graphics, who has helped me with my website, and Jim Tracy, who was the creator of the original limited edition Zendomes Organite. If it wasn't for him, I never would have gotten started in all of this. So I'll be adding links and resources, throughout time. And that's basically my website. I'm just going to show you very briefly my Organite in my shop. You can read all about what orgone generators do. I have a special on until the end of this month where on every order over $100, you're going to get a randomly selected gift. It could be a pendant, it could be pet orgone generator, a pendulum, something like that. And here are all the different categories of the orgone generators that I have available. Under the shop, I have very few comfort crystals left. But the ones that I do have are amazing. And I've got some energy generators. I've got some spheres. I've got some different kinds of stones. Some come in gift boxes, some don't. And then I've got some pendants. Here's the crystals on their own. And here are the crystal sets that come on their own or in beautiful gift boxes. Vital services. If you know anybody who's just waking up or they're just freaked out by finding that the mainstream reality is not exactly what we were told it is, please feel free to access me through any of my services. Now, I just want to quickly run over what I mean by a shamanic, by me being a shamanic guide. Now, shamanic means that I'm able to cross through the veil and access important information from other realms. It could be angels, ET, my higher self, basically what we would call what we would call our our spiritual, or sorry, my mind just went blank, our spiritual realms. There's so much information. It could include the Akashic records. It could include talking with one of your loved ones on your behalf. It could include almost anything, but I access information from those realms, the paranormal realms, and I add it to my other things that I do. So these are just categories. I've got 6 services. Some of these services can be found in more than one category, but I do ascension coaching. So people that are interested in the ascension process, what does that mean? How do we go from a flat 3D, all we've ever known as 3D, to start our ascension process? Because there's a lot of levels before you start really getting into the spiritual realms that are just starting off where you're at now. So this also links back to the Quantum Health Transformation Program, which will also really help you to get going on the ascension process. If you're interested in that, if you're not, it will still help you. You can't really lose. Then there's awakening support, cannabis consulting, and this is cannabis for use in a medical application, not recreational. I've got how to deal with energy. I've got some services for people who have what they call medical regret. Medical regret can mean having a procedure that your government talked you into, and then you're finding out it's not what you thought it was, and you have some regrets about getting it, or your health has taken a plunge. It could also include things like myself, where I've had all these surgeries and took all these pharmaceuticals in the past, and all it did was leave me regretting that I had followed doctor's orders and had not yet learned how to look within. There's shamanic guidance, which of course includes the spiritual realms, spiritual emergency for people. Often spiritual emergency is misdiagnosed as mental illness. Spiritual emergency is any kind of spiritual emergency where you're experiencing things you've never experienced before, or you're not experiencing things you want to experience. And it has nothing to do with religion. I'm just going to say that. I have a few workshops, and then I've got quite a few services for well-being. And I'm just going to go into the Awakening Support tab here and show you some of the services. So there's Ascension Coaching, Awakening Support, Lifestyle Coaching, again, medical regret, or spiritual consultation and support, all kinds of things, everything you could possibly want help with, in these very difficult and stressful times. And I talk a bit about my experience, and you can also access my credentials and see my professional references that I have here as well. So that's my website. So I just took you through a little tour of that. And I think that's about all I'm going to talk about today, but I really appreciate you for being here. And I really encourage you to subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel, my Odyssey channel, my Telegram channel. I've kept the name consistent, so it's easy to find me, and it's Karen Holton TV. So whether it's, if it's on YouTube, it's Karen Holton TV. If it's on Odyssey, it's at Karen Holton TV. And if it's on Telegram, it's also Karen Holton TV. And I've kept everything consistent so that you can easily find me. I've got a couple of groups on Facebook. Please do send me a friend request, and I'd love to get to know you better. So that's about it for today. I want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey, for being a part of this show, for sharing and liking and doing all those things that help my show to be a success. And but most of all, I'm hoping that I've inspired you to maybe take a look at your life and do some things that are going to make it better, make you feel better, help you to understand things clearer. I don't have all the answers. I have what I have co-created with the spiritual realms, and that's what I'm offering to you. But by no means is this a one-size-fits-all. Again, take the information that's relevant to you, that's meaningful to you, and keep it, and just throw the rest away. You don't need it. It may not apply to you. It may not be for you. It may be for someone else. Like, there is no one way of doing things. There's many, many, many ways, and thank goodness for that. So until next week, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to say thank you so much to all my precious viewers. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you have an awesome week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Splendor into endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all in